far as the what it looks like in practice, obviously right now it won't happen till Wednesday, but it's going to be something that's going to be talked about and reminded for students. And the staff know, or it came out in an announcement that this was happening this evening, that this was going to be the recommendation, and it was told to them that this is the recommendation. At this point, I don't have any data to say if they are or aren't using it yet because we haven't started. But it's a pretty clear message that this is the direction we're going, especially because it's been removed the other choice. Like
Right.
the physical planner is not there, so sometimes that becomes the barrier when it's easier to do it with the physical or a different way than the recommended way. But this time there isn't that physical piece, so this is the way that is being recommended.
And I assume there'll be some sort of communication to parents and instructions on how to access those calendars so that they can start to
I think
utilize
that
it.
will happen. In meeting with the Stacy team, I'll make sure to bring that concern. Like the communication wouldn't come from me. It's going to come from the team, how it's going to be used, and maybe even some ways that the communication went to faculty as well.
Maybe just as follow up, and I don't know, maybe it's obvious, I'm not sure. Is every sixth grade math doing the same thing in red, like every class? I'm just trying to think, like if you missed a period, is there a time where one would actually be doing a different assignment? Did you get any feedback like that from teachers, Matt, in terms of?
Not yet,
Okay.
because we haven't, there isn't, sometimes we don't know what we don't know until it happens.
Understood.
And what we're trying to do is find the most efficient way to use it so we're actually not creating more work
Sure.
by calendaring every single thing.
Yeah.
One thing I don't want it to get confused with is it's not going to look at all like the planners that came home. Teachers are also going to be using Google Classroom a lot more. So with Google Classrooms, teachers have a calendar within there that they can also post homework that students can go see it. So it's not going to be, it's a paradigm shift in the way things are going to work. So when a student logs into Google Calendar, it may just have whatever example homework this date, but in Google Classroom, with that it's paired with, it's going to have a full example of what it is, what it looks like, and maybe even in a YouTube video on how to get it done. So it's going to really, this was the big benefit, is that it's going to work in a pair, essentially.
Was the communication and the testing, like everyone in a cluster sat down and kind of tried it and saw how?
I wasn't there, so I
Okay.
don't want to say did or didn't
Got it.
happen. But I think, as far as doing things differently, I think you're going to see, if I had to guess, just looking at it, the possibilities, the Google Calendar is going to be, this is going to be, is the camera on?
Yes.
Okay. Let me give a different example. So if you just write shopping list, shopping at Stop and Shop Thursday, but in the Google, that would be in the Google Calendar for students, but in their Google Classroom will have all the specific examples of what they'd have to buy or what they'd have to do. It could say math unit homework due in 3 days. Within Google Classroom, it's going to have the examples, the work papers, the links to the documents that they can visit to see what the assignment is. It's definitely not going to be a long narrative like you'd have those 1-inch by 4-inch spaces in the student planners.
Sure. I was just trying to make sure if one math is doing unit 4 and one is doing unit 5, that it worked for them to kind of have that.
And what I think will happen to that, and again, I don't want to say it and then it may be a little different, is each of the sections has a number after it. So if section 1A,
Got
for
it.
example, is doing page 6,
Perfect.
1B may be doing something different. So if I'm on 1B, I'm looking at that
Thanks.
specific piece.
Okay, that's helpful. And I just know today, Joe, they're bringing home a sheet that's by core class with the homework listed. So they're bringing home a hard copy page right now,
Mhm.
just to communicate it.
For now, yeah.
Anybody else, Chris?
So, just looking at it from, do we have a specific timeline? I mean, and also, it's kind of a directive towards the teachers, right? So we're not telling the teachers they have to use this, it's a tool. I guess my concern is, I was shopping at Staples over the weekend and I saw people buying binders that we know, that are Milford students. So we pride ourselves on providing everything we need for the students. But now some parents are out there buying those agendas for their children. So I'm just, want to make sure that, again, that we're moving forward in the right direction, that we do have a specific timeline to try to implement this program. We got to teach the teachers got to get comfortable with it, then we're going to have to teach the students how to utilize this. I expect that, 6th graders are more spoon-fed the information, and by the time they get to 8th grade, it'll be their job to be able to use some executive functioning and take what the teacher has given for homework and input it themselves, you know, so there's a step process. I just wanna make sure that we're looking ahead and do we have a timeline? Do we have, you know, kind of a learning process going ahead to implement this for the students and for the teachers especially?
I think it's yes for both. I think the timeline started over the summer when the communication went out, when teachers had the opportunity to try this out. The professional development was planned at the first staff meeting to show that this is, of all the things to choose to really train teachers on the first week, this was one of them. And to try to get those out. I think in meeting with the administration team and rolling out the Chromebooks Wednesday, I hope they start using it Thursday, the day after, because the sooner we are able to utilize anything, the sooner we're able to see what does work, where we need more training on it, and what are some of the best practices. We're going to learn things in 2 months from now that teachers are doing that I don't want to sit here and recommend and pigeonhole us into doing one thing. So I'm hoping the timeline, and when I meet with the administration, because we're going to talk about the rollout Wednesday, is Thursday. As far as the amount of the implementing it Thursday, it may be lower end versus as we get closer to November, it's going to be much higher.
Right, yeah, that's why, looking from a timeline standpoint of how we can, you know, truly get to a usable point where we're efficient, you know, certainly we're gonna have to take baby steps at first, so, you know, do we see a timeline? Should we as a committee see a timeline to be able to understand, you know, that when you're talking to the staff, you know, or to the administration, when the administration is talking to the staff, and when the staff is going to be able to teach the children, you know, like,
So I think
I want to be able to see how the rollout plan is going to work.
Yeah, if you don't mind me jumping in a minute.
Go ahead.
The thing I like about the Google solution is it ties into everything we're doing because we're a Google district. It's very simple, very easy to do. I don't know how many school committee members have a Google Calendar, but it's very easy to manage. The only trick is when you have a sub-calendar, it's just how do you get to the sub-calendar and how do you publish it out there. There'll be some, I think there'll be some bumps in the road because some folks will get it immediately. But the thing I like about it is it's not like one of the solutions Matt was talking about that's an outside vendor coming in that we're trying to integrate into something that we're already doing. This is part of the Google suite of tools that we already have access to. And it's very simple to just have a link. Parents click on the link. They see section A, section B, section C, and they're able to pretty quickly get a sense of what the homework is. So it really kind of serves. And again, there's going to be bumps in the road because it's new. There's no question about that. I don't want to set false expectations there. There's going to be some folks that are going to, from the teaching perspective, that are going to struggle with it. There's going to be some parents that are going to have trouble accessing it for whatever reason. But I think within a month or two, because it's so simple and so easy to use and very intuitive, that I think it's going to work very well. Probably better than the agenda because it's going to also, for a lot of teachers, link in, and it will eventually be more to the Google Classroom platform as well. So, the parents will say, you have that question at home and you have the handwritten agenda, what is Quark 7? And the kid's like, well, I'm not sure what the teacher assigned for homework. Now you'll be able to jump right into the Google Classroom. Or, they could access other kids within the network. Not that all the kids don't have the kids in the middle school have cell phones and can do that anyways. But I think the simplicity of it and the usability of it and just the familiarity that our students at this point have with the Google platform, I think are gonna make it simple. There's gonna be bumps, there's no question about it. And I have every expectation we're gonna have some issues with this. And we're gonna have some folks that are gonna struggle with it from a teaching perspective and on the home end, we're gonna have some folks that are gonna struggle with it. The goal is to have our tech integration teacher, Steve, is going to jump in and really help the teachers, and the principals, the teachers, and the tech folks are going to be available to help the parents. And so my guess is by late winter, early spring, I think this is going to be like we've been doing it forever, but there's going to be a couple of months where there's going to be a little unevenness to it.
Understood.
It's definitely a step in the right direction. It's what we should be doing. The important piece is going to be the communication, right? That's the critical part of it. So educating the parents on how to access the information, and if there are outliers, if there are teachers that aren't comfortable using it or they prefer a different method, just making sure that those teachers are having conversations with their families so their families understand that they're gonna need to go elsewhere besides the Google Calendar to get the information. So from my perspective, that's the important piece, just making sure that families understand where to access the information.
Right, 'cause those are the two big goals. It's not how much teachers are utilizing Google Calendar, like how much is in there, what the text is there communication to families on what's expected of students to be completing outside of school, and are the students getting their homework done? Like, those are the two pieces that we really wanna continue to focus on more than how many teachers are putting full, stuff in there. So I think that's something we're gonna look at just as much as usage, the communication, and our students completing their homework as well.
Joe, sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you know approximately how many kids don't take their Chromebooks home at Stacy?
This, last year, it was 36,
Okay.
42 total.
Okay, so it's not very many. So they'll be able to access it as long as they have a
Yep,
device
so every
somewhere.
student has access to the Milford domain
Perfect.
wherever they can connect on their phone even.
Okay,
And I think part of the Google Calendar is that it syncs with your phone,
excellent.
so that students that have
Yep.
mobile devices will have that opportunity as well.
Perfect. Extra credit for the cost of the tool.
And this is probably a very naive question. Do you have to have a Google email to access Google Calendar?
Will they all have a Google email?
Right, but as a parent.
No,
So-
it's a
so
public
a parent may
website.
not.
It's essentially a public website where they would, hopefully, we're gonna show them how to do short links or link it to their website, that it's a public site. It will look different, just so people know, if you have a Google Calendar versus a public domained website, but it's the same information that'd be there.
Okay. So if I have a Yahoo account as a parent, I'll still be able to access that information.
Yeah,
You're dating yourself via the
Yeah.
but it would have actually nothing
It's
to
not
do with
AOL,
your,
Kevin.
it wouldn't have anything to do with your with your email, actually. You would just go on whatever browser you utilize, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Bing, and it would be a website, like ESPN, like similar.
Anybody else? Awesome. Thank you, MJ, as always.
All right.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Milford Public Schools policy second reading. Which one of you guys wanna take that over?
I think these were primarily just legal updates, Joe,
Okay.
so just to sort of get us up to date with where we needed to be on these. So
Okay.
I don't
I
think
just,
there
a
were
little refresher, because I
sig-
wasn't
Yep,
here,
absolutely. I
so
don't think
thank
there were
you.
significant changes to the substance other than that.
So can I get a motion to accept these slight changes to the policy? Motion by Jim, seconded by Joe. All in favor? Awesome. Thank you, guys. Next on the agenda, Kevin, how about it?
All right, great. So first I want to do just a really quick opening of school report. And we were experiencing some technical difficulties at the beginning of the session, and we actually played a video for the committee that showed all of our new teachers. We have 41 new teachers, and I'm going to post the video on Twitter, and we'll put it up on our Facebook page as well. But it's a fantastic just introduction of the teachers, and it puts really a face to a name, and they share maybe a fact or two about themselves. So sometimes it's just kind of nice to see who some of these new teachers are, but we're very excited about all of the new teachers we have coming into Milford this year. I'm happy to report the first week of school in Milford was very successful. Despite the warmer than normal temperatures, students and faculty were excited to begin the new year. Both Shining Star and kindergarten students began this week, and the first day for our kindergartners went very smoothly today. I want to thank all of our faculty and staff for such a positive and seamless opening. And I also want to share with you a few things in Milford that are new this year. First, we were just talking about the Chromebooks at Stacy and Planners, but we're in the process of distributing Chromebooks to our high school students in grades 10 through 12, and that started today and will wrap up hopefully tomorrow. So we'll effectively be 1-to-1 in grades 3 through 12 across the Milford Public Schools. We've added new Project Lead the Way courses at Milford High School that we're very excited about. Mr. Walsh is doing a great thing where they have like a murder scene, and the students have to kind of work back using kind of forensic evidence to figure out what happened to the victim. And that's a kind of one example of an engaging unit that are connected to these new Project Lead the Way courses. We have a new playground at Memorial School that the students were able to make use of this past Tuesday. Craig and I actually tried it out as well. Craig made it across the monkey bars, so I was very proud of him.
Why was that not in the video?
That's an upcoming video. That's in the blooper reel.
Okay.
We have a new SEL director, Lisa Kincaid, and she's already hit the ground running, and she'll be joining the committee at some point over the next few meetings to kind of share what she started so far this year and what some of the plans are kind of in the short term and the long term. We have also a new outdoor classroom at Brookside Elementary School that teachers are already using, and apparently there's been some talent and variety shows happening during recess already. And we're really thrilled to be back and looking forward to an amazing year. So I'm very excited about the start. So far we're off to a fantastic beginning. And the second piece, excuse me, the second piece is, and this was an unusual request, and I wanted to bring it to the committee because it's a request I haven't had before, either as a superintendent or as an assistant superintendent. I just wanted to share with you and I'm calling it a proposal, and kind of just get your thoughts on it really more than anything else, and maybe just have some of the members kind of share what their thoughts are. Is we have a property became available on Spruce Street, and the property owner kind of reached out to the library as well as the public schools, and basically said, they wanted to see if we had any interest in the property, either for like the purpose of maybe additional parking, because if anybody's ever been to Stacy, particularly at an event, parking is very tight, or some other purpose. And so we really don't have like the value of the property. I'm not sure of right now, but it's something in probably the $200,000 to $350,000 range, and that wouldn't include whatever we need to do to either turn it into a parking space, parking area, or use it for some other purposes, whether it was office buildings or office space or what have you. But I'm just curious if the committee has any interest in kind of pursuing these types of opportunities in the future, or kind of what their thoughts are generally is really what I'm kind of looking for, just some general feedback.
Go ahead.
So I think it's definitely worth exploring. There's clearly a need there for additional parking.
Yep.
I think obviously we need a lot more information, right? So the expense of purchasing the property.
Exactly. There's
raising the
again
home.
just a preliminary.
Yeah.
idea.
The number of parking spaces that it would result in, I think, would be important.
And even if the
couldn't
zoning would
tell-
allow for a parking lot there.
Right. And I couldn't tell from the information you sent if it was one of the properties that is facing, in the front facing the street or behind, because some of those properties have houses behind houses, so it's hard to tell exactly where it was. So it might have been in a very difficult spot to even create parking. So I think we just need a little bit more
Yep.
information.
Yep.
And I know with the long-range planning process, there's Stacy's somewhat involved in that as well,
Absolutely.
so this
Absolutely.
might factor into that.
Absolutely.
I'd be all for further discussion on it. Probably getting town council involved to see what we can and can't do on that.
Yep.
As Joe had said, zoning and everything else. It is something to consider, but, obviously more feedback would be interested in. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that.
I would say if we have an issue and we have options in terms of how to solve it, we should explore them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I thought it was worth at least bringing up to the full committee, just to have just at least a conversation. And we tend not to be in the property acquisition business
Right.
generally. But again, like I said, this is the first time something like this has come across in, I don't want to say the 5+ years I've been in Milford that I'm aware of, where a property owner has reached out and said, hey, what do you think about this as a potential option?
Do you know, is there a deadline or
I think
timeframe or
our
anything like
timeline
this?
is not going to match the property, and that's what I worry
Right,
about,
right.
because we would have to do a fair amount of due diligence from, first of all, just a legal perspective. What's the viability of it, turning into like a parking lot or some
Right.
other use, and I don't know if that's going to match up with the property owner's timeline.
Good. Something
So,
to think
but
about.
again, I thought it was worth just bringing up as just a point of conversation. So in the future, and when we'll talk to the town council to kind of get a sense of, what our kind of rights and responsibilities around this, because it's kind of new ground for me,
Right.
new territory for me. So.
Thank you, Kevin. Next on the agenda, Mr. Kinsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. How about it?
So I wanted to speak to everyone today about the Massachusetts Consortium for Innovative Education Assessment. It's a mouthful, so we'll say MCIEA from now on. I'm really excited about this partnership and this consortium that we joined. I'll give you a little bit of background into the consortium. So it came about from this researcher, Jack Schneider, who was a researcher when he started, he was at Holy Cross, now he's at UMass Lowell. And basically, he was tired of seeing the town of Somerville and their schools get ridiculed because of MCAS scores. You know, they're constantly being a level 3 school or a level 4 school, and he's saying, you know, I walk into the schools and they're great schools, yet everything that is being reported in the news or on, you know, the Boston Globe says it's an underperforming school, and that's not the case. When I first saw his presentation, I said, you know what, that sounds awful familiar to me. I've been hearing that for years about, you know, why aren't we performing as well as our neighboring districts? And clearly there's a disconnect between how we perform, how different towns perform on state assessments versus how the schools actually are. So the consortium, which began in 2016, and it consists of 6 districts before we joined, we're the 7th. The 6 districts are Attleboro, Boston, Lowell, Revere, Somerville, and Winchester. Attleboro and Revere are, if you look at our DART data of alike districts, they're 2 of our DART partners, I guess. And then, of course, Somerville, Boston, Lowell are more urban areas, and kind of Winchester's the only really outlier in that group. So their focus is on 2 different things. One, building this data dashboard that highlights a bunch of different areas, and I gave everyone the white paper that they printed. If you look in the white paper, there's a section on the school quality measurement framework right here, and these are all the different things that their dashboard highlights. And one of the things is MCAS data, but the other thing that they're reporting on are quality performance assessments. So there's, like I said, two different angles that they're going at. They have the data dashboard side and then the quality performance assessments. So they've teamed up with another group called the Center for Collaborative Education, who works with teachers to build these performance assessments. And the idea is that we'll get together with these 6 other districts and create performance assessments, and we'll build them together. We'll give the assessments in Milford. The other districts will give the assessments. We'll come back and kind of look at how our kids did, compare data. How did our students do again versus how your students did? How did our teachers grade them versus how did your teachers grade them? And we're looking to create a bank of these performance assessments that we could use to maybe someday get a waiver from the state and use that as our way of our accountability measure, is using performance assessments instead of the one-day test like an MCAS. So there's some work to do still on that, but what I like most about it is we're on the governing board, and there's myself and Nick Molinari working hand in hand on a governing board with the other superintendents or assistant superintendents and union heads. So it's all teachers working with district administration to make sure that everybody's on board with the work that they're doing. So it's really exciting stuff, and I at the end of this year, we hope that we'll have a prototype of a data dashboard for Milford. The other districts, like I said, are a year or 2 ahead of us. They did have a data dashboard that they were able to show the public. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have something.
With their data dashboard, how
Yep.
how did they look with their results afterwards? I mean, compared to what the state tells
so-
you that they are.
That's a great question. You have to keep in mind it's multiple measures, right? So when the state gives you accountability ranking, it's basically based on one thing, that's MCAS. So their data dashboard they send surveys out to parents, teachers, students, so they use all the survey data. They do observations, and they use these quality performance assessments, and they have ranges, basically. They'll have, say, student physical safety, and they'll have a bunch of survey questions, like for a student, for example, do you feel safe at school? And they'll somehow come up with a rating for how all the students in the school feel. Like say 75% of the students said, yes, I feel good in school, and then they'll have a rating on there, a range. I can't remember what the different ranges are, but it'll show where the school falls. But I think what's important about this is it doesn't rank it against other schools. It just shows you how you did in your own school. And I think really when MCAS was, and accountability was, I guess, rolled out, it was never meant to rank one school against another. It's just what people do naturally. But it was really meant for you as your own school to kind of look at how you're performing year after year against yourself, right? So I think that's what this does. Maybe eventually, if there's more than 7 districts, maybe people will start ranking one school against another, but it doesn't, it's hard to do it. I only saw it one time, but it's really hard to take it and kind of look at another district. So basically you look at it, it highlights all the things that you're doing well, and then all the things that maybe you need some work on, and then you can build school improvement plans off of it. So.
Very nice.
If I could add just 3 quick things before you guys jump in. One is, I think one thing that Craig mentioned about accountability, and I think the DSC is actually moving in a good direction with the new accountability system, is they're really moving away from kind of like the grading of schools and trying to really kind of push more of this is where you are, these are some targets we want to see you kind of shoot for, which I think is kind of a better approach. The other piece, and I think Craig hit on this too, but schools are very complex organizations, and it's very difficult to boil anything a school does down to like one number. And everybody's experience, like in a particular class, in a particular year, can be very different based on a lot of different variables. Like if I'm sitting next to Joe all year and he's annoying me, I might have a pretty negative school year. But there's a lot of things that go into like someone's general feeling about school, and how we measure it shouldn't come down to one number. And that's what we really like about this organization. Did you mention, I had to step out for 2 minutes, did you mention that in New Hampshire's already gotten this waiver? For so a group of districts in New Hampshire have already received this waiver. They're still tested in grades, I think 3, 5, and 10, which is required by federal law, but the other grades, they do these performance-based assessments, which I think is a better way to go because they're much more comprehensive than a multiple choice test. And if you see where standardized testing is going across the country, a lot of states, because of the cost of assessment, are getting basically robots or machines now to assess writing, which to me is kind of insane because what are you really measuring? Because they're really just putting variables into the computer. And I don't know how accurate an assessment of somebody's writing or growth we're going to get from that kind of a process. Because we're kind of doing it in we're kind of assessing schools in the cheapest, most efficient way, and not in the most comprehensive and robust way. And that's the big appeal to the MCIE group.
And the big appeal for our teachers is they have a hand in creating the assessment. So, they create them, they grade them, but obviously there's training involved. But I think that's the way it should be, and it's given multiple times over the year, not just one time. So, exciting times.
Laura, did you want to?
Yeah, it sounds great. I just had a question about the performance assessments. Are they going to be the same for all the schools who are in the consortium, or are members of this group, or do we get to decide what performance assessments we as a district want to?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure that we're there yet.
Okay.
Because right now, I guess where they're at is what they do is they bring on so many schools per district per year. So we were allowed to bring on 2. We brought on Milford High School and Stacy Middle School.
Okay.
So we send a team of teachers to an institute. They learn about performance assessments, and they work in their group with these other groups. But they're like our group from Stacy, for example, cuts across all the different content areas and all the different grade levels. So it's hard to use one specific assessment. I think what we're trying to do is develop a bank of assessments and then be able to kind of pick and choose what you want to use.
So then will all the dashboards be similar?
Yeah, the dashboards are similar, and I only saw Revere, but after reading everything and sitting in on the meetings, what they did do was they did focus groups in all the different districts. So like they went to Revere and found out from parents what they thought a good school was and how do you measure a good school, and they went to Somerville and asked the same questions. And what I'm not clear about is, did they create a Somerville dashboard and a
Right,
Revere
that's what I'm asking.
dashboard, or did they compile all of it and come up with one? So
Right.
I'm not sure if it's one specific data dashboard or different for each.
But the frameworks essentially are the same.
Yeah. Yep.
You had mentioned the state accountability system, and we know that they've been looking to revamp that. Do we know what the status is there? Is that still a work in progress?
So I think we're still wrapping our heads around it because it's a kind of a very different approach. Like right now, if you look at like accountability, last year we had no accountability status because we were in the new online MCAS version, and I think we're going to be that way for a couple of years. My sense is it's going to be more that, like, let's say we get a specific score and a specific grade in MCAS, they're really going to be setting a target for each district based on that particular score. And instead of rating like districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they're going to look at like what type of support do you need, you know, from the state to like meet your targets or goals. So it's going to be a very different way of looking at it. So it's going less from like I think people equate like a 1 to an A and all the
Right.
way down. This is more, these are some of the areas where you may need to improve or you might need a little bit of assistance, and it's not clear to me yet. And I'm still kind of, and I think Craig is too, we're still trying to wrap our heads around exactly what it's going to look like and how it's going to kind of roll out.
And weren't they also moving away from putting so much weight on
Yeah.
MCAS and looking at other measures?
So there's other measures involved. I saw a prototype. I'm not sure if they're moving this way right now, but it looked more like this data dashboard where they had 5 or 6 different measures. MCAS was one, maybe graduation rates was another, and I can't remember.
I think attendance was playing
Yeah,
into it.
attendance.
I think they were also
And percentage
looking
of kids
at
in high,
AP
like,
courses.
like yeah, AP and like
Yeah.
early college courses. And there's a few other factors. The weighting of it's unclear right now to me, and how it's like what the equation is to kind of get to that like final result or get to like the different targets is a little unclear too. But I think this year we're going to get a lot of information from both the state and like the Superintendent's Association, the Principals Association in terms of guidance.
From what I've read and from what I understand, I think that the state recognizes that the current accountability system is flawed and it's weighted
Correct.
towards more affluent communities. And
Right.
so the new structure that they're looking to put in place would benefit a diverse community
Mhm.
like Milford because it's going to look at more metrics, which is what we're trying to do here with this as well. So I'd be curious to know how this is going to compare to the new state
Mhm.
accountability system and if there's a lot of overlap there or if they're
Um,
still going to be very different.
I think that this is going to give you more touch points.
Yeah.
Where I think the state's still going to be very limited. This is going to give you many more different areas. What I forgot, one of the things that they're trying to figure out is how they report on subgroups. They don't have that yet. So they're trying to figure out a way to report the subgroups out, because obviously that's very important.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
This seems really exciting, Craig, so I love the direction that it's going. Are all of the measures equally weighted within this model?
I guess yes,
Okay.
because it doesn't. It's not like it's not going to give you like say
Score.
100, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
you're just going to be able to see, oh, geez, arts. How does Milford do with arts?
Yep.
Now, I think we all could agree that we're probably going to do really well in arts,
Absolutely.
right? Versus another district, or how do we do in PE, or how do we do in social emotional learning? So
Okay.
It's kind of a completely different concept in
Got
the
it.
sense that
Yep.
we're not coming out with like before like a 1, 2, 3, 4,
Score.
5. It's really just saying like these are all the different things that are important in schools, and this is how we're doing in each individual category.
Got it.
And it's really for like whoever looks at it, whether it's our leadership team to say, hey, these are some areas we need to focus on
Yeah.
because this might be a place where we're struggling a little bit.
Yep.
Or a parent can kind of see, well, wow, I really love this aspect. I've got some
Right.
questions here.
Sure. And school choice wise, thinking about where you
Right,
maybe
exactly.
want to be
So
in the
think
future.
about
what's
somebody
aligned.
moving into town,
Yeah.
right? They look at an MCAS score, and what does it tell them? Not much really, but you show them this data dashboard, and they can see, wow, the school's really does really well in this area.
Absolutely. for the schools, Craig, that are sort of further along in the process, they've been participating longer, have they implemented measures as a result of what they've seen? Have they found good action items?
You know, I've only been to like 4 meetings, so
Okay,
we
sorry.
really haven't talked about
Got it.
that piece
Okay,
of it.
thanks.
They're still they're on the ground floor. They're
Okay.
still building this thing out, so,
It's exciting.
yeah.
Thanks.
Can I say what I love about the group though is that I think we have some of the most innovative folks kind of running this organization, and I think some of the districts involved, I just love their approach. And like when our teachers went, some of the feedback we received is it was awesome for them to work with other teachers and districts across the state to really see, like, they've been teaching maybe a particular concept one way, and it's a great way to like really generate ideas for them and really improve practice. So I think there's a real value there. And it's really a bottom-up approach too, which I think is, you know, the teachers are in the classroom and they know better than anybody. And that's what we really want to rely on.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, you know, for this framework here and how we're assessing, I guess we're hoping that the state and their assessment is kind of similar. Does this kind of put us ahead of the curve as far as trying to, you know, if we're able to implement this and being part of this, this network, you know, does it help us get to the kind of the target points earlier than when the state's gonna start implementing their assessment, do we feel, or?
I would say that our group has the state's attention. So I know that Jack and Dan have met with the commissioners several times now. There's a budget line for this too in the state budget. So I think that the state is kind of looking at this group as potential to be a pilot. So I think we're ahead.
Do you have any examples of the other schools of their dashboards that they have since they've been running this? So we can just take a look and
I'd
see
have to
what they
get
have.
permission.
If you could, I mean, if not,
Yep.
if it's a hassle, don't bother, but
No, it won't be a hassle. I just have to get the permission. It's not really. I don't think it's out in the public.
just like examples, I mean, just so we could,
Yeah.
I personally would like to see
Yep.
how they're doing. Is that it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Greg? Moving along, Kathy, it is your turn.
I have for the committee's approval this evening, 9 warrants. The first warrant is in the amount of $214,004.34.
Motion to approve the warrant. Motion by Jen, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $399,324.30.
Motion by Megan, seconded by Joe. All in favor?
Third warrant is in the amount of $17,303.61.
Okay, motion by Joe, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
The fourth warrant is in the amount of $1,461.17.
A motion by Chris, seconded by Laura. All in favor?
The fifth warrant is in the amount of $4,263.17.
A motion by Laura, seconded by Chris.
There we go.
All in favor? I'm going down the
Gotta
line,
look
as
out,
you guys can
right?
tell.
Every once in a while.
The sixth warrant is in the amount of $21,745.51.
A motion by Joe, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $32,539.56.
Motion by Megan, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $4,592.96.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
And the last warrant is in the amount of $277,241.30.
Motion by Megan, seconded by Joe. All in favor? Thank you.
We also have a course reimbursement request in the amount of $10,003.33.
Motion by,
Who was that for again?
That is a list of all the educators that are taking courses.
Oh, so it's a grouping, right? It was the
Yes.
grouping, okay, all right.
Motion.
Go ahead.
motion by Chris.
It's not some
Yeah,
course
yeah.
that, it's not some course that Greg
I
does.
was like, whoa, when I was thinking it was one course.
It's the
that's why, so-
MCIA orientation
Yeah,
course.
exactly. As long as it's collective, yeah.
Second by Laura. All in favor?
The committee also has a list of new hires, and no vote is required. It's for information only. The next item on the agenda is the FY18 final budget transfer request to bring the final financial into balance. And essentially, the overall deficits were between transportation and out of district for the year. There were other line items that had short deficits. Fortunately, we had contract obligations at the end of the year, $31,000 for the sick incentive, that our contract language afforded us the opportunity, along with our maternity leaves and overall our heat budget will balance those deficits in the amount of $531,000 even, which does require a vote or questions.
Any questions?
And that closes the books on 2018.
Correct.
We have a motion by Jim, second by Megan. All in favor?
And I also provided the committee the before transfers as well as the after transfers for your review. In addition, with the new DESE code structure, I have a second transfer request for the FY19 budget. Essentially, it is required to move any long-term salaries or subs that we have on staff. We need to fund those, that budget line from the teacher's salary line. In addition, we had a change in one of our teacher quality grants this year. Therefore, we wrote the grant incorporating one of our instructional coach salaries that were approved and moved the teacher salaries that were being paid out of the grant into our local budget. So it's really just a housekeeping move and a way to maintain the grant. It was approximately $90,000. So by making that shift, we were able to maintain that grant. And that transfer request is in the amount of $230,346 to balance the FY19 budget.
Get a motion to accept that? Motion by Megan, or second by Chris. All in favor?
In addition, the committee has a town meeting warrant article for the fall, and this is essentially the PEG access grant that we have as a housekeeping item. We need to request, even though the grant is written with Comcast for educational dollars, it's required the school committee request those funds be transferred from the general fund into a revolving fund for school committee access.
This is something we do often, isn't it?
Yes,
Or
every
do we
year.
do it every year?
Yeah. It does require a vote.
Get a motion to accept this. Motion by Joe, second by Jim. All in favor?
We do have one out-of-state travel request from Dr. Masterson to attend the ASCD conference in Nashville, Tennessee in November from the 2nd to the 4th, and that does require a vote as well.
A motion to accept this request. Motion by Laura, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
And I do have an additional out-of-state travel that I received today, and I'm hoping the school committee, the committee will entertain the ask of the hotel and hospitality group. They would like to travel in October 17th. It's an annual trip to Johnson and Wales. Just the timing of it, so that this way they could acquire transportation. It's 38 students traveling. It's on Wednesday, October 17th. And a nurse has been secured, so it's just requires a vote because it's out of state.
I'm kosher if I don't have any questions. I get a motion by Jim, second by Joe. All in favor?
And that's all I have this evening.
Just had one follow-up question. The town meeting warrant, is today the deadline to get everything submitted?
I believe it's in another week.
Another week, okay. And this is the only thing we're submitting for fall, or is there anything
Yeah.
else up for
Yeah, this-
discussion?
this is it for-
This is it for fall, okay.
Mhm.
It does say Yeah, the warrant will remain open until Thursday, till noontime Thursday, September 6th, so we can get on here, right?
I believe Zach said they wanted everything in early, but I thought that, the actual deadline was mid-September.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Next on the agenda is any future agenda items. Anybody want to add anything for our next meeting? No? What?
Yeah, I wanted to see if maybe we could explore foreign language opportunities for our students at the elementary level as possibly a future agenda item. I know that's something we offered in the past and since went away with budget cuts, so I just want to see if now is the time to possibly bring that back. Either as classes or even possibly as
I
immersion.
think that's a great idea.
Writing that down. Yep, I got it.
Anybody
We'll
else?
definitely add that.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to add something. I know Mike Walsh did this in the past, and I loved every minute of it. He actually assigned each one of us to be a liaison to one of the schools, and I'd like to do that, you know, especially with you guys being new to the committee and everything like that. Basically what it is, well, you know, you guys can email me, or I'll email you guys out, you know, as time goes by to figure out what schools would be best that you guys want to, like, be a part of, you know, take 1 month or like 1 day out of the month or something, go visit a school and just report back to us. As a committee, we can give it to the community, and find out what they're doing and everything like that, you know, including PTO, all that stuff, you know. I loved going in, I loved seeing the kids, and they all like seeing me too, I guess. I mean, they didn't run away, so.
We got tons of positive feedback from that.
So I'd like to add that, maybe we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Joe, in conjunction with that, all the PTOs are having their first meeting, so it might be great just to make sure we have someone going to each one. Just
Right,
to-
my wife is involved in the Memorial one, so I'll be heading that one up
Great.
as well. I don't know, if you guys, you know, wherever your kids go to school, if you wanna hit those PTOs as well, that's, feel free.
Would this be in addition to the walkthroughs that are also kind of done as
Yep,
well?
yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we're still doing those too.
Yep,
Do we
absolutely.
have a date on that?
I will have dates probably the next week or the week after. We're trying to just kind of square it up with the
Day
schools.
3 in
and-
school, Chris.
No, I love the enthusiasm.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that last time. It was great.
Yeah. No, they're great events, and and like I said, we moved away from the first day just because there's so much going on the first
Right.
day, and this gives people an opportunity to kind of pick, and we try to hit a couple schools each time.
That's-
Are you gonna assign schools, Joe, or?
I'll, if you guys wanna shoot me an email or I mean, I'm not picky, whatever you guys want, whatever you're comfortable with. I know some guys might not have time to visit school, so if it's something that you live close by, you wanna hit Woodland or something, I'm fine with that. You can shoot me an email and we can talk about it. Any old business? So we do have executive session, so we will not be returning tonight. If I could get a roll call for this executive session?
Yes.
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 All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.